Hey everyone, welcome back to Geodecode Global.
If you don't have that natural zest, a desire to do things for other people, not just for yourself and your family, then you can't be a leader.
If you don't have natural zest, a genuine desire to do things for other people, not just for yourself and your family, then you simply can't be a true leader. Today, we are going to talk about how one man took a tiny struggling island and turned it into one of the richest, most successful countries on earth. You all know Singapore as a small but incredibly wealthy nation. But here's something most people don't know. This island was originally home to nothing more than fishermen and pirates. It was poor. It had no natural resources. By every logical measure, becoming a global success story should have been impossible for this place. But it happened anyway. And today, we are going to find out how. If you ask most people why Singapore is so rich, they will tell you it's because of its location, sitting right at the heart of global trade routes. And yes, that's true. But that's only half the answer. The real question is, who saw that potential? And who actually made it happen? That man was Lee Kuan Yew. And that's exactly what we are unpacking in today's video. So if you are new here, welcome to Geodecode Global. Let's get into it. Before we talk about Lee Kuan Yew himself, let's quickly set the scene historically. I promise this is the last bit of background before we dive into a real story. Before World War II, Singapore was a British colony. Then in 1963, it joined the newly formed Federation of Malaysia, alongside Malaya, Sarawak and North Borneo. This was the end of British rule, but as you will see, it was far from a happy ending just yet. It was in this uncertain shifting period that Lee Kuan Yew stepped onto the stage. As the founder of the People's Action Party, PAP, Lee built a political movement that would carry Singapore through its toughest years. In 1959, when Singapore gained self-rule, Lee Kuan Yew became its first ever Prime Minister, the first leader of a Singapore no longer controlled by a colonial power. And like every great success story you have ever heard, the hardest part was just getting started. Lee inherited a nation with almost nothing going for it. No oil like Malaysia, no vast resources like Indonesia, no rich farmland like the Philippines. Just a tiny island, a hard-working population and one very determined leader. His first big move was joining the Federation of Malaysia. The idea being that a bigger federation meant shared resources and more stability. On paper, it sounded like a smart plan, but it didn't work out that way. Within just 2 years, serious tensions exploded. Disagreements over how tax revenue would be split with the federal government, and racial tensions that flared up in July and September of 1964. The relationship between Singapore and Kuala Lumpur was falling apart fast. And then, the breaking point. On August 9, 1965, Singapore was separated from Malaysia and became a fully independent sovereign nation. For Lee, this was devastating. He genuinely believed in a united Malaysia. If you have ever seen the footage of his press conference announcing the split, he was visibly emotional, something extremely rare for a man known for being calm and composed. But there was no time to dwell on it. Singapore needed him more than ever right now. Now Singapore was completely on its own. No federation, no resources, no safety net. So what happened next? That's where things get really interesting. The story is not over yet, but before we continue, I want to share something with you. I run this channel completely alone. No big company behind me, no team, no editors, no researchers. Just me, doing all the research, writing every script, and bringing these stories to you single-handedly. If this video has given you something valuable so far, there's just one small thing I would ask of you. Subscribe. I know that one click might seem small to you, but for an independent creator like me, it makes a massive difference in helping this channel grow. People like me don't have a studio or a network behind us. We work for you, and only for you. Your subscribe, your like, your share. That's the only support we get. That's literally what keeps us motivated to keep making these videos. So, have you subscribed yet? Thank you, my friend. Now let's get back to the story. And now, back to where we left off. Here's something a lot of people don't know. Lee Kuan Yew was not just a politician. He was a trained lawyer, educated at the prestigious University of Cambridge. That legal mind gave him a sharp understanding of governance that most leaders simply didn't have. But his real superpower, he knew how to find the right people and build the right team. One of his earliest and boldest moves was launching an aggressive campaign against corruption. He knew that no country could grow if its institutions were rotten on the inside. So he strengthened the Corrupt Practices Investigation Bureau, CPIB, giving it sweeping power to investigate and prosecute anyone. Citizen or government official didn't matter. Nobody was above the law. And the results, incredible. By 2020, Singapore ranked third out of 180 countries for the lowest corruption levels in the entire world. Let that sink in for a second. Lee also introduced something revolutionary. Meritocracy. The idea was simple. Government positions go to the most qualified and capable people. Unlike countries where celebrities and wealthy elites end up running things, Singapore built a system where you have to actually prove you are qualified to lead. And that one decision attracted some of the sharpest minds in the country into public service. Combine zero tolerance corruption with merit-based leadership, and you get exactly what Singapore became: clean, efficient, and incredibly effective. Here is something most documentaries skip over. Lee secured a long-term water agreement with Malaysia for an island with no natural water sources. This wasn't just convenient, it was about survival. And Lee made absolutely Singapore would never be left vulnerable because of it. On May 11, 1967, Lee launched something called the Garden City Vision, a plan to turn Singapore into a clean, green, beautiful place to live. Massive island-wide tree planting programs were launched. Parks were protected. The environment became a national priority. And honestly, if you have ever visited Singapore, you already know it's one of the greenest cities on the planet. Trees everywhere, parks woven right into the city. That's not an accident. That's Lee's vision, decades later, still very much alive. Lee also understood something a lot of leaders miss. Division kills progress. So instead of letting political infighting slow things down, he united the entire government around three goals: growth, safety, and equality. One mission, one direction. Here is the part I personally find the most impressive. As early as the 1970s, Lee was already grooming the next generation of leaders, recruiting and training people years before he would even consider stepping down. In 1990, after over 3 decades as Prime Minister, Lee finally stepped down, but not before handling the reins to Goh Chok Tong, someone who shared his exact vision for the country. Lee himself didn't disappear from politics either. He stayed on as a senior minister, then later as minister mentor, and in 2004, his own son, Lee Hsien Loong, became Singapore's third prime minister, continuing the family legacy of service. Lee Kuan Yew did so much for Singapore, way more than we could ever fit into one video. But if you ask me, the single most important thing he did was this: he made sure his vision didn't die with him. Think about it. This is the biggest problem in so many countries and around the world. A great leader builds something amazing, and then the next leader comes in with a totally different agenda. Or worse, just want to get rich through corruption, and everything falls apart. The progress stalled, the direction disappeared. Lee made sure that never happened to Singapore. Honestly, if every country had a leader even half as dedicated as Lee Kuan Yew, maybe there would be no such things as third world country. Just nations that simply hadn't fought their Lee Kuan Yew yet. But everything he built, that's still standing strong today. And it's proof that one person with a real vision and a genuine desire to serve others really can change the fate of an entire nation. If you enjoyed this video, you already know what to do. Like, subscribe, and share this with someone who would find it interesting. I will see you in the next one. This has been Geodecode Global. Thanks for watching.